going to start for today on Samach Gimel and Beis. Amar Rav Yidam Rav. It's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 16 lines from the bottom. That's a guy. And then last night, so we're a little bit ahead. Okay.
Where do we start?
We're on 63B.
63B.
Thank you. Okay. We thank Hashem that they both learn Torah every day. This chus of our learning we should have the Beis Hamikdash. And learning the Nishmas, the Sanal Zev Ben Sian. And for Refuah Shleima for everyone that needs. And also for Israel. See where it says Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll start.
Okay.
So Rabbi Yehuda says name of Rav Anchi Bavel Asu es Sukkos Banis. The people of Bavel, he quotes a verse in Kings 2, Halach and Beis. This is talking about that the Assyrian king had rearranged the people, the inhabitants of the north of Israel. They brought in other people to live there, and those people came in and they were worshiping idols, and they made different idols. So the people of Bavel that were brought there also as Sukkos Banos, they made the idol of Sukkos Banos. Mine, what idol is that? Tarnagilas. That was a hen. What's wrong? You don't in the wrong place.
No. I'm just surprised at these names.
Oh no, Sukkos may be associated with the word sechvi. We spell sechvi with a sin, not with the samach. At least that's how we have it in. But anyway, sechvi means a rooster, right? So this would be the Sukkos would be the female rooster. That could be a pshat. Ba'anshe Kut also as Nargol, the people of Kut, this make like Kutim. People of Kut, they made the Nargol, which that's a type of an idol. What is a Nargol? It's what it sounds like. It's my neo Tarnagol. It has half the word in there. Tarnagol. It's a rooster. Ba'anshe Chamas also as Hashima. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. My neo, what is Hashima? That's Barcha Karcha. That's a bald. Karcha means bald, but here it's a goat because the goat doesn't have a lot of hair, so the goat is called bald. And Barcha is a that jumps around. What do you say, billy goat?
It says the word Amshe means barren, hence it denotes a billy goat.
Billy goat,
which has a little wool.
Little wool would mean that's why it's called bald. That's why Karcha is bald. But what is it? What is a billy goat? What is it? This means it jumps a lot.
Don't know. Bald
buck. A buck is a goat.
Usually they're fast.
Yeah. Well, barcha means that it runs. The word barcha means to run. Avim asu es nivchan ves tartak. They made this. The Avim made nivchan and tartak. What is that? My neo. That's kelev v'chamar. That's a dog and a donkey. These are images of different idols. Vasafravim surfim es b'neiim v'esperesim be'esh ladra melech va'an melech elakei safravim. I'm not sure. I don't have vowels in my thing. Well, these people, the Safravim, they would burn their sons and their daughters in fire to Adramelech and to Anmelech, the kings of the gods of Safravim. What are the gods of Safravim? That's Hapered Vasus. That's the mule and the horse. How'd they get these names? Well, Adramelech is the Adar Le Lamari Betina. Adar's coming up, right?
Yep.
But here Adar is being translated as Hadar, that it adorns, it beautifies. It shows respect to the king by carrying its load for him. You carry something first, so the mule carries the load. and or the horse carries alone. But Anamelech, what's on Anamelech? The Anile Lamare Bikrava, that it answers, it responds to the king in battle. So how do they translate that? What is it doing?
It says the name Anamelech is formed of the words Ane, answer, and Melech, king or master.
And what is the animal doing that, or is that referring to the horse?
Yeah.
That's
Seems like it.
For a horse responds to the needs of its master.
Oh, it responds to the needs. So Anamelech is the horse responding to the needs of the king. Okay. Rav Chizkiah Melech Yehuda Bikishav Velastus Lekein.
Wow. At the same
I bring
time.
my billy goat.
At the same
You mean like the billy goat is a male goat, right? So he
Okay.
has a beard.
Oh.
Jewish goat.
So Chizkiah, his father's name was Achaz, and his father wanted to put him in the fire, and that was one of the types of worships. And Ella Shesach Imai Salamandra, but his mother had smeared this oil of salamander on him, and that protected him. What's it called?
Salamanders?
No, the thing, it's a fire retardant. Something it stops the fire from burning.
Oh, wow.
Gemara always says that, but I can't
No.
wait to research.
The what I'm familiar with is they have these under the sea by the
Under the sea is
Great Ocean.
Disney. Under the sea.
It's called the Great Ocean Ridge, the volcanoes that are under the.
Okay, yeah.
So by these hot water vents, so they found over there these bacteria that can survive in this tremendous heat, and so that bacteria is what they use from that to make the fire suits for the firemen. So anyway, there is such a thing as some things that don't get burnt, right? Yeah, we know.
In the end of Gemara Chagiga, no?
In the end of Gemara Chagiga, remind me of
Salamander.
what was it?
It's Sipui Mizbeach. Potion throw salamander.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say that.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says name of Rav. Yedin HaYisrael Ba'avidas Kechavim Shem Ben Mamash. It's an interesting Gemara. Rav Yehuda says name of Rav that the Jewish people knew that there's no point in worshiping idols. But they wanted to be able to commit adultery, and if they would be Jewish, then there's no excuse. They say, okay, we don't believe in anything. We believe in just the idols, and the idols allow it. Right? So,
the rod doesn't have 7 high laws.
yeah, so sometimes people, they don't want to, if they have to smoke on Shabbos or something because they're addicted. So they say, oh, I'm not religious. They drop everything. It's easier to drop everything than to be hypocritical. So,
Some people, like, they'll be on the plane. They don't want to show that they're Jewish, so they're vegetarian. Because they want to be kosher, but they don't want to show on the
Right.
outside.
Yeah.
People do that.
Some people.
so must have
Vegetarian.
Rav Mashashi has a question.
You do that?
According to Rav Yehuda Marav, the people didn't really believe in the idols. Rav Mashashi says, 1 second. It says Kazachar b'neiim mizbechaisam, like remembering their sons, their altars, v'goyim, etc. Ambar Rabbi Lazar said, that the way that they were attached to the idols was like the way a person was had yearning, was like homesick, was yearning for his son. Umar says, yeah, that was Basad Vikobe. That was after they were attached to it. Then they started to have those yearnings. But originally, they didn't really care much for it. They just wanted an excuse to be able to commit adultery.
But even that point, it's not that they care for the stone. It's they care for the other things that they do.
It seems like they developed a feeling for it after over time. But that's what it sounds like.
The worship of the horse and the donkey, it seems like it seems very, very silly because they're saying that they have a master. So how can you worship, have an idol, worship a god that the whole point of that god is that it serves its master? Maybe that's why it's coming here. I don't know.
It's interesting.
India.
Yeah,
Grass, cows.
in India. Yeah, saying that's how it comes in over here, that they didn't really believe in it.
No,
Uh-huh.
but India,
If whatever-
believe it's reincarnation.
Tashma, yeah.
Not from people to
Whatever
go.
benefit
Yeah,
they were
true.
getting, stop. I guarantee they would throw the rock in the wall.
Tashma, come and listen. It says like this: when asati pigrechem al pigre gulechem, I'll put your carcasses on the carcasses of your idols. Amar, they said like this: Elio Atzadik, they mechazer al tafuche rav shabir shlak. And it's called over here Elio Atzadik.
Yeah.
It's Elio Navi, right?
Says the righteous. Yeah.
He was going around seeing the people swollen from hunger in Jerusalem. One time, he found a child that his body was swollen, from hunger, and he was laying in the garbage. He says, "What's your family name?" He says, "I'm from this and this family." Is there anyone else that's left from that family? He says, "No one except for me." If says, if I'll teach you something that you live with, would you study it? Would you learn? Says, yeah. Said to him, Amar b'chol yom Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Say every day, Shema Yisrael. Amalai, so the child says, Has, you should be quiet. I don't want to mention any God that my parents didn't teach me. He took his idol out of his pocket, this child, from his chest. He was hugging and kissing it until his stomach burst, and he fell over it. He fell over the idol on the ground. The idol fell to the ground. He fell over it. To fulfill the verse from the I'll put your carcass over the carcass of your idol. Remember that joke with we have one God and we don't believe in him? That's the child that comes home from school saying something about Yashka. He says, "Listen here, son, we only have one God and we don't believe in him." Okay. So, so this is a question because it seems like here they're attached to the idol. You told me before the Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav that they weren't really attached to it; they were just using it as an excuse for their pleasures. That says Basid Aviku, but that's after they became attached to it. Then they would develop this feeling for it. Okay. Tashma. Come and listen. They cried out in the big voice, strong voice to Hashem the God. My Amr, what were they saying? Amr Rabbi Yehuda, Vitem Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yehuda says, and some say that it was Rabbi Yonasan, Baya. How do they translate Baya? Woe.
Yeah.
I know the Achrevela Basi, woe because of the Yetzirah. That's why our Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. The Kalya Lechala, the temple was burnt. Katlino letzadike, and the righteous were killed. And the Jewish people were exiled from the land. And the Yitzhahar is still here dancing in front of us. It was only given to us for us to receive reward, for us to overcome it. We don't need the Yitzhahar, we don't need the reward. Just take it away.
Amen.
So apparently this seems like they were attached to the idols. means the Yetzer Hara was sounds like the Yetzer Hara for the idols was doing this. The Gemara answers this as well. Basad Avikube. That was after they were attached to it, then they would develop some feelings for it. Yasfu tlasa yaima betanisa. This is Rabbi Yehuda's statement before. So they fasted for 3 days. And Bayrachme, and they davened. Nafalu Piska Mirakia, a note fell from the heaven. It says true. It means like you were accepted. You got your ticket, your receipt. Rab Chanina says Shema Min HaChisam Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emes. The insignia of Hashem is the word Emes. Nafa Kaguria Denura Mibeis Kadshe Kadashim. The lion, a fiery lion, came out from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Amalahu Navi li Yisrael. The Navi said to the Jewish people, Hainu Yitzhada Avodah Zarah. That's it. That's the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. That's the evil inclination. Usually they show the evil inclination like a little thing on the person's shoulder, talking to him in his ear.
That's a good guy, Jim.
No, you get the devil guy.
Here it's a lion. I'm sorry.
This is the Anshe Knesset Haggadolah.
Yeah, it's funny. It didn't tell us like who's talking here, but it's apparently that's who it is.
So that places it in time.
Yeah. Well, the base Kodesh HaKadoshim is still around, right? Well, while they were trying to grab it, a hair came out from it. They're struggling to hold it, and a hair came out. And it let out a roar that went for 400 parsais. Amro, that's the entire Eretz Yisrael. Amro, what should we do? Dilma Mishmayim Rachmele, if it's going to cry like this from heaven, it's going to have compassion on it. We won't be able to get rid of it. Amalei Navi, the prophet said, should you bedu the davra? Should put it in a big pot of lead. The kasir ba'avra, and cover it with lead. The shayef kala, because that will absorb the sound. The ksiv, as it's written, vayemer zayser shah. This is the wicked. This is the evil inclination. Vayashtachesel techa efa, and he threw it into a efa as a measurement, like a pot. Vayashtaches evanai feres al pia, and he threw the stone of the lead stone on its mouth. Amri, they said, hayel beis ratano. Because the time is good, because it's an auspicious time, let's daven that we should get rid of the Yetzer Hara for relations. They davened. They got a hold of the Yetzer Hara, that Yetzer Hara as well. And they put it in prison. They captured it for 3 days. They tried to get an egg for someone that was sick. They weren't able to find an egg. Amru, because there was no Yetzer Hara there was no, even the chickens didn't mate.
Same thing today, no eggs.
There's no eggs today. Hillel says there's no eggs today. So Amru, they said, what should we do?
It's Shovavim.
That's funny. Let's ask for just half. They said Palga Mirakia Layavi. The heaven doesn't give just half. You can't get half things from heaven. Kachlin Alene, they just blinded its eyes. Now Ahanibe, that helped. Igri Inshi Bekrivase, that people aren't incited by their close relatives. In other words, they're not tempted to have relations with their close family. So this explains that why the Torah says so many times, don't live with your sister or mother or aunt or daughter and all of these things. And why does it have to repeat that in all of these places? Apparently there was a temptation. and it went away. And also the fact that the Torah tells us about not to worship idols, and we're all wondering like, why would anyone want to do that? So apparently back then there was a big temptation, and took it away. The commentaries say that when we lost prophecy, we also lost it went together.
Other
The
than
same
that,
thing.
there's somebody it would grab like I don't know, didn't he try kind of the same thing with demons? And he got
Right.
messed
Oh,
up?
yeah.
Well, he took the chain. He undid the chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did they grab it if it was made out of fire? I don't know.
Or the bacteria.
Yeah, they used the salamander. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says name of Rav. Ma'aseh ben Nachris Achas, she'sachela b'yaser. Story of a non-Jewish woman who was very sick. Amra, she said, Im tamari isha michalya telech v'tav l'chol avedus shabayim. If this woman gets up from her illness, she takes achlata. She's going to worship every idol in the world. Amda, she recovered. And v'avdul l'chol avedus shabayim. She went and she worshipped every idol. Even Shigil Pa'ar, she came to the idol of Pa'ar. Shalom Kaimim, she asked the priests, how do you worship this one? Amrullah, they told her, you eat, what's that, beets? You drink beer, and then you go to the bathroom in front of it. Apparently, that makes the stomach very loose. And Amra, she said, she thought this was disrespectful. She said, better that this woman should go back to being sick than to do that to an idol.
Women don't like beer.
Yeah, it's his comment. Okay.
What did he say?
He said women don't like beer.
Sure.
They could have had, what was it called? Shandy.
Right.
Shandy, was that like a Sprite and beer? And they had that thing. Okay. Atem basis came. You are not like that. It tells to the Jewish people. The Jewish people are not like this. Why? And it's Madim Balpar Katsamit Pasa. You were attached. You attached yourself to Balpar. This woman, she refused to behave like that. Even to the idol, she couldn't get herself to do that. To go to the bathroom in front of the idol. And you attach yourself to Katsamit Pasa like a seal on a basket, on a barrel. When it comes to Hashem, you connect to Hashem, your God, like two dates that are connected one to another. Now, when the Gemara is doing a comparison here, the way that you connected to the idol was much tighter than the way you connected to Hashem. To Hashem, it was like two dates that were squished together that they just come apart like nothing. But to the idol, you attached yourself even stronger. Yeah, Masnisa Tana, there's a brisa that taught it differently. It says, "And it's madim l'bal pa'ar kitzamed al yidei isha," that you're attached to yourself to the idol of pa'ar. That was like a bracelet. But the way you connected to Hashem was much tighter. The bracelet was more loose. The way you connected to Hashem is tighter. So the brisa has it more in a more positive way than the way the first statement was. Rav Yehuda Marav. Tana Rabbanan. Stored in a brisa, Maisa besavta ben Alas. The story with this person, Savta ben Alas. He rented out his donkey to a non-Jewish woman. And when you rented out the donkey, you also went along to maintain it. You sort of like an Uber driver. So you got to go along with your car. They don't just give you the car, right? They take care of it as well. Even Shegia Pa'ar, when they reached the Isle of Pa'ar, Amrullah, she said to him, let me go in, and then I'll come out. When she came out, Amrullah, this Savta ben Allah says to her, wait for me as well. I'm going to go in also. Amrullah. So she said to him, but you're Jewish. Amrullah, he said, what do you care? Nichnas par b'fanav. He goes inside, he goes to the bathroom in front of the idol. And he wipes himself with the nose of the idol. The priests of the Avodah Zarah, the caretakers over there, they were praising him. And they said, there was no one that served the idols in such a good manner like this person. Okay. I'm skipping something. Where it says 1 second, but is this what people told him, or is this the Gemara commenting on what he did? And what he did was he was doing it. I'm sorry.
To degrade the idol.
I'm not sure.
First
So-
time says that
That one. He was doing it to degrade the idol.
Expression that somebody knows, like if somebody tries to ingratiate themselves, somebody they call it like a certain colored nose, the thing made it square.
Okay. So
You saw the eternal voice.
so it says that someone that goes to the bathroom at this idol, so that's the way it's served. Even though he wasn't, even if you're intending to disgrace it, but nevertheless, that's still the way it's worshipped. Someone that throws a rock at Mercury, this is the way it's worshipped, even though you're trying to stone it. So it doesn't help to say that, what do you mean? I was trying to disgrace it. Rav Menashe he was going to this place, Beit Torta. They said to him, there's an Avodah Zarah here. Shakal Pisa, he took a clod of dirt and Shadabay, threw it at it. Amrullah, they said, Markulasi, this is the idol of Mercury, and that's how you worship it. Amrullahu, it says that someone that throws it on behalf of Markulus. I didn't throw it on behalf of Markulus. I threw it to degrade it. Also, Shalbei Midrasha. They went to ask in the base Midrash. Doesn't matter, even if you're intending to degrade it. Amalahu, so he says to them, Ezel Ashkeleon, let me go take it back. Amrulay, they said to him, whether you put it on or take it off, that's both of those are a prohibition. When you take it away, you're just making more room for more stones to come. So it doesn't help to take it off.
This is the best thing, is just do it more. Because even if you, like in this case, they tried to do something to degrade it, and then it's like
Right.
acknowledging is like
Right. Interesting. Yeah. There is a Gemara in Chulin that the Gemara compares someone that has a student that's not behaving properly, but nevertheless the teacher teaches him Torah. Alaymed Torah Talmud Sheina Hagan is Kazerik Evan Lamarkulis. It's like throwing a stone at Mercury. And the logic of that was that you think that you're going to teach him Torah, so I said something good, right? You're teaching him Torah to the student, but we don't know what he's going to do with it. He's going to use it to. So what you're doing, it looks like it's something good, but it's really something bad. So it looks like you're stoning the idol, but really that's the way you worship it. So that's the that's the, right. It looks like one thing, and really it's the opposite. Okay. The next Mishnah is about Melech. Melech, it's not so clear if it's a few things that aren't so clear. One of them is if the person died. Melech was someone that gave his son over to be passed through a fire. Was the idea over here that the child should die or not? And the other thing is, was this a type of idol worship, or was this just a witchcraft? What category does it go under? Does it go under idolatry, or does it go under superstitions or witchcraft? Well, it goes like this. Someone gives one of his offspring to Melech. He would only be chayev as the prohibition. He has to hand it over to the priests of Melech, and he has to pass him through the fire. Let's say he gave him over to Melech, but he didn't pass him through the fire. Who would pass him through the fire? The priests or the father himself? Does it say over there in the notes? Hever be'esh, let's say pass him through the fire, but he didn't pass him over to the priests of Melech. You're not chayiv. You have to do both things here. Let me see what it says here.
If he does both.
Yes, skila.
If he does both.
If he does both, but I'm asking, who would take the child through the fire? The stewards there, they would do it. No, but then it says v'gam yaver oisei beish l'chvoid hamelech. Is that referring to the father? Oh no, Rashi says you're right. Rashi says that that the stewards would do it.
What does it mean when it says the stewards who administer the icon? What is it?
It means the priest that the icon means an idol. Click on the icon.
Oh wow.
Okay. Ketani Avodah Zarah. The first Mishnah here, not the first Mishnah in the Masechta, but the last Mishnah that we learned said Oived Avodah Zarah, Oived Avodas Kechavim, and it gave a whole list. Now we have a new Mishnah that says Ketani Maila, a new Mishnah about Maila. Amar Rabavin says Tanan Kimanda Amar Mailech Lab Avodah Zarah, Avodah Zarah. This Mishnah, these Mishnayos are following the opinion that says a Melech is not a type of idolatry; it's a type of witchcraft. That's why we divided it into two categories. So there's Avodah Zarah, and it was the last Mishnah. Now it's Melech. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Echad laMelech, v'echad l'shar Avodah Zarah. If someone passes his son over, whether it's to the Melech or whether it's to any other Avodah Zarah, it's chayev. Okay.
Child die.
That's unclear if the child would die. If I remember correctly, in the commentaries on the Chumash, I think there was a machlekes in the Ramban and some others. If that meant that the child was being offered as a sacrifice, that could be killed, or if it was just like fire walking or something. They don't. It's not. They just would go through fire. This first opinion is going to hold that.
You choose which.
Yeah, that's what this opinion would hold that Melech is a type of Avodah Zarah, because it says whether it's Melech or whether it's any Avodah Zarah, the same prohibition applies. However, Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon says no. If it's not Melech, then he's exempt, because this issue is not an issue of Avodah Zarah. This is something else.
What do you mean if it's not it's another idol?
A different idol, yeah.
But I thought we just learned yesterday that you do a kedah, shelo kedah.
That was by Ishtachava, by
That was
bowing down.
only by Ishtachava.
Yeah. However, what we're learning now is that Melech, when it comes to passing the child, that's going to be even Shlei Kedah, that's going to be the Chiddush, that even by Melech also, by passing over the son, the same thing would apply, even though it was a different Avodah Zarah, and that's not the way you worship it. Let me see it in this. Okay.
Isn't Molech the name of the idol?
Yeah, but we're discussing here if Melech is a name of an idol or a name of a superstition.
Oh.
It says for since the right of Moloch is considered idolatry.
Yeah.
It's in
So
two different
it looks like both opinions here are saying that Melech is a type of idolatry. The question is if it's specific to Melech, passing the sun over, or if it's to any idol. Now, let's see. Amar Abaya. Abaya says Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas Amar Davar Echad. These two sages, Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, that's Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon bar Yochai, and Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas, they both said the same thing. That it has to be specifically Melech, not to other idols. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon Adam, Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, we just said in the Brisa, he said that only Melech, that you pass your son over the fire, is going to be that prohibition. Other idols not. Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas, the time Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas was taught in a Brisa that Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas Aimer, Tafsa Torah Lashon Melech. Why does the Torah call it Melech? He says Kol Shem Lichu Aleim. Anything that they do to honor it, to make it in what do they say? To put it in charge, or make it a ruler. Doesn't matter what type of idol it is. Even if it's a pebble or a twig, but it has to be called my.
Sounds like it's anything that you give with
Right, but that wouldn't fit with Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon said it needs specifically to be Melech. Okay. Anything that's a ruler, but so in other words, Melech is more encompassing. It's more generic. Rava says that Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon and Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas are not saying the same thing. He says Melech Haraya Kabinayim. There's actually a difference between these two, between Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas and Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. According to Rabbi Chanina ben Tignas, that anything, even something temporary, that is considered, or that would be called a ruler, would be considered Melech. And Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon says no, it needs to be the actual Melech, designated, not a temporary idol. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yanai says, he's not chayav until he gives him over to the stewards of the idol. Shnemar, as it says in the pasuk, umizaracha, from your descendants, you should not pass over to Melech. Now, what it sounds like is that you're passing over, giving them to someone else that they would pass over. Stewards, right? Okay. Tanya Namiyachi was also taught in a Brisa, quite like that's going to support Rabbi Yanai. It says that you shouldn't pass over your son in fire. Yachal, Hever, maybe if he passed over his son in fire, but he didn't give it over to the stewards, Yechayev Misa already. It says that not to give. Now, there's two verses here. One is says leisitin lahaver lamaylich. Other one is layimatze b'cham aver b'tivesh. One is leisitin, one is layimatze. It says you should not give. That means if you give it over to the stewards, that's the prohibition. Masar lemaylich, he gave it to Melech v'leihever, but he didn't pass him over the fire. Now it would mean that the stewards did not follow through. They didn't. So Yachal Yechayev, maybe it should be Chayev. Talmud Laimar Lahaver. It says in that pasuk that don't give to pass over. You're only going to be chayev if the stewards followed it through. So in others, it's interesting because when you gave it over to them, you now, if they didn't follow through, then the father is not chayev.
Even though you have the intent.
Right. Masar behavior. Let's say he passed it over to the stewards and they brought him through the fire, but it was shleila melech. It wasn't from melech. They brought him to some other avodah zarah. Yachol yechai, maybe he's chayv talmud leimer lamelech. It says, reading through this pasuk, leisitin lahaver no lamelech. Master behavior lamelech, but v'loi beish. He gave it over to the stewards. He passed him through the fire, but it was they passed him to melech, but it wasn't over fire. Yachol yechai, maybe should be chayiv. Nemar kan lahavir. Over here it says to pass over. Nemar la'alan. It says in that other pasuk. You should not be found amongst you. Someone that passes over his son or daughter in fire. Mala halon be'esh, just like over there, it's only in fire. Afkan be'esh, also over here, this pasuk means that it's a fire. Makan l'maylech, also over here it's maylech. Aflalan, also over there, when it's talking about fire, it's referring to maylech and not a different avodah zarah. Amar Ravacha breder Rava, Rava's son says, Hevir kol zarei pater. This is a famous halacha. That if someone takes all his children and puts them all to Melech, then he's exempt. If he just does one, then he's chayev. If he does all of them, then he's exempt. Shenemar umizaracha, and from your descendants. Like kol zaracha, not all of them.
He has one kid.
The question is, when he did the first one, he's chayev already. Talking about if he only has one kid, right? Then he's not going to be exempt. It's only if he has more than one kid that he would be chayiv. Or he brought them all at the same time. That's what Taisva says.
Wait, what would he be chayev?
Skila.
This guy's not got a party back.
Well, it depends if he was warned. Curtis would be if he wasn't warned.
So if he wasn't warned, he'd get chorus. If he put all his kids through and it says he's okay, he still has chorus because he lost all his.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. I hear.
Like the
Okay.
Mitzvah, right? If the Mitzvah is like if the Mitzvah is completely covered, then he's tahar.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing that this reminds you of is that if everyone in the Sanhedrin says that he's chayev, he's exempt. Yeah, boy, Ravashi has a question. I'm going to have a bunch of questions here. Ravashi has a question. Havir suma. If his son is blind, mahu, what's going to be the din? Is this considered that the father passed him over? Or, yeah, how do they explain? Why is this a question? I think it's talking about that they have to carry him through. They have to be the ones, the stewards have to want to carry him through. But if he's blind, yeah, in other words, it has to be that he could have walked, but they carry him through. So then that's the prohibition. But because the blind person couldn't go on his own anyway, something like that. That's how they explain it.
It says perhaps the Torah holds the father liable only if the child could have walked through.
He could have walked
through the trouble,
but because he's blind. I hear. Another question. Ben Benai Ben Bita. Let's say it's a grandson. Mahu, what's going to be the din? We know it says Benai Ubita, his son or daughter.
Well, you skipped Yashan, Mahu.
Oh, I skipped. I'm so sorry. Yashan, if he's asleep, what's going to be the din? Because also he can't walk in his sleep, right? He could sleepwalk, but that's not typical. Or let's say it's a grandson,
Blind person.
but he needs someone to pass him to walk with him.
Oh, see, I was looking for that.
Tifsheit Mia Chada. Let's at least we can answer one. We can answer the one that has to do with the grandson. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa, from his descendants he gave to Melech. Ma Talmud Laimar. What is this pasuk teaching us? It's coming to tell the fish and Emmer, because the other pasuk says the other pasuk says that there should not be amongst you someone that passes his son or daughter in fire. Ainly Ella I would only know the son and daughter. Ben benay ben biti minayin. How do you know grandson? Talmud Laimar besite leMelech. It passes over to Melech. That means even a grandson. Okay. Tana pasach beki mizarai. The brisa starts with the beginning of the pasuk that says because his descendants were given to Melech. Besalek besite mizarei. It says it ends off with him giving from his sons. Tana starts off with a different kimizari nasan l'mailach, and it brings a different pasuk. It brings the following pasuk. Brings the second pasuk. It concludes with the end of the second pasuk. So Drosh Achrinu, this is coming to teach me something else. It says Zara, when it says his descendants, ainly Ella Zerakasha, I would only know if it's appropriate, if it's a kosher descendant, not a mamzer. But Zera Pastel Minayin, how do we know even if it's a mamzer? Tamalim Besitz Mizar, if he gives from his sons. Well, I don't know if I could finish this.
I don't know if you tried.
It's a little late. Should we stop here? Okay.
Oh,
We're up to Amar Rav Yehuda.
the worst word in the English dictionary. Stop.
We're only 2 pages behind.
Okay.
And then tomorrow will be 3. So
Well, I hear Beach House Sunday.
I
Daf Yomi.
hear a lot of extra.
Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Daf
More
Yomi
Kolo nights
Sunday.
next